Audio Jungle.
Between Ukraine and Russia.
The Swedish government allowed a group of Ukrainian airmen to be trained on the Saab JS-39 Gripen fighter aircraft. Gripen fighter jets, more cost-effective and considered more straightforward to learn than F-16s, were explicitly designed to defend Swedish airspace against Russian aircraft. According to The Economist, they can also land on short runways and highways, making them an ideal choice for Ukraine's defense. President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the Swedish government for joining the coalition of nations working to provide the Ukrainian Air Force with new fighter aircraft and launching an independent training program for Ukrainian pilots on modern Western-type aircraft. It is an opportunity for Ukraine to test and get a better understanding of the Gripen's performance, Defense Minister Paul Johnson said during an interview given to SVT Nyheter Media. Before the training can begin, the two countries must close some legal issues. Once this last stage is passed, a group of pilots previously trained in Ukraine will have a first approach to the Swedish weapon system through simulators, and eventually they will be able to fly the JS-39 Gripen. In May, a fledgling fighter jet coalition, including the UK, the US, and the Netherlands among others, pledged to train Ukraine's pilots on F-16 jet fighters and to provide the planes themselves, while Slovakia and Poland already supply their Soviet-made MiG-29 aircraft. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky shared on Telegram that his discussion with Paul Johnson covered various topics, including the aviation coalition, situation on the battlefield, essential armaments for Ukraine's defense, Ukraine's peace formula, and Euro-Atlantic integration. Earlier, Oleksiy Reznikov, Ukraine's defense minister, mentioned that Ukraine hopes to receive several types of fighter jets from its allies, one of which will become its primary combat aircraft. On May 19, UK PM Rishi Sunak announced that London, the United States, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Denmark agreed to aid in training Ukrainian pilots on Western fighter jets. The United States specifically pledged to support training Ukrainian pilots on fourth-generation fighter aircraft, including the F-16, a category that also includes the Eurofighter Typhoon and French Mirage 2000. The White House noted that discussions over the following months would determine the schedule, the contributors, and the quantity of aircraft to be transferred to Ukraine, emphasizing that Ukraine must not use any delivered fighters to attack Russian territory. After training, will the fighters arrive? According to the Swedish defense minister, Ukraine wants to test the Gripen now, with the future structure of its defense system in mind. Although President Zelensky had already requested Gripen fighters, Stockholm had declined, as they have no surplus aircraft, and all those available are in active service. Other possible sources of Swedish fighters are the Czech Republic and Hungary. Each operating 14 JS-39 Gripen C/D is leased from Sweden. But these aircraft form the backbone of their air defenses and are not immediately available to Ukraine. However, there is a possibility that they may agree to divest their Gripen and hand them over to the Ukrainian Air Force, provided that their NATO partners guarantee the integrity of their airspace by deploying Allied fighter jets to perform air policing missions, similar to the Baltic air surveillance mission. While the fact that Sweden is starting to train Ukrainian pilots on the Gripen is a clear indication that this aircraft could end up participating in the war against Russia, its implementation will require intense negotiations within NATO, which takes time. It should be noted that the Air Force of Ukraine still has Soviet Megan Su aircraft in service, somewhat modernized and improved but already quite outdated. Their number in Ukraine was not particularly large either. Our pilots know how to fly the planes of these two design bureaus. At first, our allies tried to solve the problem by looking for MiG and Su aircraft for Ukraine in the countries that were part of the former Warsaw Pact. However, there are not so many of them, and they are in terrible condition in some places. There are rumors that our pilots are already mastering the control of the F-15 or S-16, a comparison of the capabilities available on our website. The appearance of such aircraft in Ukraine would be great. It would change the course of the war and allow the establishment of control over the airspace. But implementing this plan requires a lot of time, which we still need to get. The ones we have, we need them to protect Sweden. We do not have a surplus of Gripen aircraft, Johnson said. This has to do with the fact that Russia is now greatly weakened when it comes to ground forces, but when it comes to naval and air forces, they are almost intact. So we have no planes to spare, Johnson added on his way to a meeting in Brussels. We'll have to look into that in that case, but the basis should be that you should train on the platform on which you will then operate, said Johnson, thus making clear that sending Swedish fighter jets is not currently on the table. Since Russia's war against Ukraine started, Sweden has contributed military aid worth SEK 17 billion, 1.6 billion euros, and humanitarian assistance worth another 5 billion, 469 million euros. As for the weapons Sweden has helped Ukraine with, include the Archer artillery system, the Leopard 2 tank, the 90 armored vehicle, and the Carl Gustaf grenade launcher. The JS-39A is a single-seat version of the Gripen. A two-seat trainer combat version of the Gripen JS-39B was also available, but it remained for use only at the Swedish Air Force's training centers. The JS-39B has the same avionics and weapons package as the JS-39A, except for the cannon. The JS-39C is the third aircraft variant, a single-seat, standard export version first delivered to the Swedish Air Force in September 2002. The JS-39C has color displays in the cockpit, onboard oxygen generation system, OBOGS, and air refueling capability.
Si no puedes aportar económicamente al canal, suscríbete, comenta y comparte, esto ayudará mucho a seguir informando.